Hi, I'm Ajayini. I'm here to talk about why I don't have a queer community.
Hello, my name is Oliver, and I'm a trans guy who make videos about LGBTQA plus people where they get to talk about anything that they want that somehow relates to them being queer. I recently came back home to Sweden after 3 weeks of traveling by train through Europe. During the trip, I met up with and made videos about 19 amazing queer people. And the last one was Ajayini, who I met in Berlin, Germany.
My name is Ajayini. I'm a trans woman. I've been living in Germany for I don't know how long. I'm newly moved to Berlin, and it's quite interesting living here, I would say. I'm an educator, consultant, author, artist, and a spoken word performer. I'm also a poetess. I'm working on more writing poetry, concentrating on that. So most of the work that I do is freelance. I guess that's the kind of trans life, I guess. Pretty much a lost soul, I guess. Something out of the ordinary, trying to fit in and not working really hard to fit in. I'm quite lazy about that, so I just stopped looking for a community. When people happen, they happen, and acquaintances and friends happen, they happen. I just stopped actively looking for it.
Ajayini has known she's a girl since she was very young.
I realized I was a girl when I was very young, I think 4 or 5. I was more interested when they used endearing terms that were more used for girls or which were quite neutral. But I always hated endearing terms that were meant for boys. And apart from that, I had this nature about me that I was more feminine in that way. When you're really young, your parents don't mind that, but as you get older, definitely they're going to question.
She remembers a specific incident that made her realize that this was real.
When I really felt that I have to be trans, or the point that I really realized that I want to be trans, is after watching Grace Jones on television. It is a funny thing because my father, his brothers, my uncles, and me and a few other cousins of mine, we were watching A View to Kill, a James Bond movie. Grace Jones plays Mayday, and she just steps out, and then she looked fabulous, like this large Amazonian person, very, very non-conforming, appears, and my father immediately pauses the movie and then calls out to my mother and all the other ladies in the house and asks, "Do you think it's a man or a woman?" And everybody says, "No, it's a man." And my father says, "No, it's a woman." And people start losing their shit, and they start saying like, how ugly she looks, she's dark, she doesn't have hair, look at her lips, And then one of my cousins pointed to me and said like, no, that I have thick, ugly lips like this person, and also I have like ugly eyes like this person, and the skin is also very dark. I'm kind of the darkest person in my family, so I wasn't bothered by what they were saying because I knew how I looked like as a child already. But I was more drawn to the person in the television because the person looked like me, and it felt really good to see someone like that and to see someone who was not fitting into the binary. I think as a child that kind of like fixated in my head, and then even as a child when I was taken out someplace, everybody thought that I was a little girl, and everybody was like, "Oh, what a sweet little girl," but my father would flip out and say, "No, it's a boy," and they will be like disappointed, but your child has such a pretty face, supposed to be a girl. So everybody saw me as a girl. Even I was a very little boy, I'm like, why would you let your girl dress up like a boy? And my mom and my parents, my father, both of them were not happy about it. But I was like really happy about it. Of course, when you grew up in a very problematic conservative household, you're forced to live a certain lifestyle. So I struggled with my journey a lot because I grew up in a very toxic environment, very violent, toxic environment. So yeah, and after going through all that struggle and after going through that journey, I'm finally going through that process of being a woman and realizing that I'm a woman and embracing it. So yeah.
And now she's at a good place, but the journey has been hard.
It's amazing. I mean, I'm definitely happier than before. There is definitely a price that you pay. You lose your family, they abandon you. Their friends, they abandon you too because they're too embarrassed to be with someone like you or things like that. So, and also people generally don't want to hang out with me because I'm too obvious, or not in a trans way, but it's not just me being a trans or being a woman. there are other factors as well, like my body, in the sense like that I'm not a skinny body, that I have very dark skin, that I have features that are very stark compared to others, so I just cannot mix with the general crowd. I stand out the moment I walk in a room. It doesn't matter what race or what ethnicity you are. I seem to be someone who's always under the spotlight. It's because I don't have hair or the way I look. So, being like that, you pay a price, because either people want you or people just don't want you. So they're like two extremes. There's no neutral position there. So that is something that I've constantly battled for a while, but now I'm kind of like trying to deal with it, because I notice even also it from dating scenes or trying to be acquainted with people get disturbed because when they hang out with me, or an individual person who tries to learn, get to know me, if we hang out at a coffee shop, both of us draw a lot of attention, because I draw a lot of attention. The person sitting with me also draws attention because the person is with me. So dating, making friends, everything just goes down the drain. There are at times I'm quite surprised there are a few people who are still willing to know me as a person and not see me as some figure or some icon, not some entertainment piece or just a hole to fuck. So
she has the same feelings about people she meets through work.
Even in my line of work, I'm constantly praised for the knowledge that I possess, or for being academically sound, or for my wonderful performance, or for my art pieces, or things that I write and I perform. So you're always placed on a pedestal and you're projected as some sort of celestial being and never seen as human. So there is one side of it which is kind of nice, but also there's a flip side, because you're never seen as human. And then there is another derogatory side to it, where people just literally see you as a piece of meat. They reduce you to your skin color or your sexuality, your gender, your looks. So it's been challenging, and that's one of the reasons I guess I never managed to find community, because either people saw me as a competition or something that was kind of a hindrance, kind of in the way, that kind of never fit into the group. So
she's also never felt at home in any queer community.
I mean, even if I look at the queer community, I had trouble kind of gelling with them, because the things that they did, for example, the music that they listened to, that never fit with what I listened to, or the food habits, or the general fashion style. For example, I never watched Drag Race. I never watched any of the typical queer things. It's not just I don't want to watch them, it just never appealed to me. And I just generally watch things that I enjoy. And there was this huge gap between me and the community in that sense. Everybody were throwing lines from the Drag Race, some, phrases which were very common, and people connected through this pop culture. My pop culture, I connected in another way, because I'm into all alternative things, alternative music, literature. I go to the theater. So for me to connect with those people or find those kind of people, I don't know. I never actively looked for them as well. So I guess in that way I was kind of left out.
She remembers one incident that made her feel really excluded from the queer community.
A funny incident is there was this trans group who wanted to have a movie evening. That evening it was my choice to pick movies, and I picked Predator, Terminator, John Wick, Brain Dead, zombie movies and stuff like that. And I picked chips, and I said they can order pizza and we can drink a lot of beer. And they did exactly the opposite, because they wanted to have just wine, sparkling wine, and they wanted just fruits, fresh fruits, raisins, no unhealthy food, not even nuts, and they wanted only watch romantic movies, rom-coms, which is really not my jam. So I said, we do that every weekend. Can we do something else? Can I at least bring a bag of chips and a couple of beers for me? And they were like, no, you can't. So they were a bit strict about it, and they were like, no, we're not reproducing patriarchal standards. And I was like, anyway, I just did not get that. I'm sorry. I'm like, why would they consider beer as patriarchal standards? Yes, there are men who brewed them and stuff, but I don't know. Maybe it's too extreme for me. I just don't get it. Anyway, I love beer too much. Sorry. So
but she sees a difference in the mindset of people in Berlin and in other places in Germany.
But nonetheless, after moving to Berlin, it's quite interesting because these are the experiences I was generally in Germany. And for me, I decided after living in Germany for so long that I have to move out of Germany, so I moved to Berlin. I mean, there is a huge difference between Germany and Berlin. Berlin is very international, very open. Literally, most of the acquaintances I try to get acquainted with, they all moved to Berlin. So it's like going back to a place, finding the promised land, I guess. So moving to Berlin has been quite good. One of my best friends lives here, and there are other people that I'm connecting with. So it's not all bad. I'm like, it's getting better. So maybe through that I might find community. I don't know, but I'm still too lazy.
Lastly, Ajayini wants to find a queer community that welcomes and embraces people for their differences.
But I would really, really appreciate a queer community who is open to accepting a tomboy trans girl who is not your typical powder puff princess. I don't know. I'm sorry to say that. Maybe that does sound patriarchal, but no. I think we are all a spectrum. Being trans is a spectrum, and every kind of trans body or trans being character is beautiful. And I guess we need to be less strict about that and accept everyone, and not just try to find your crowd or people who have the similar hairstyle, who wear the similar brand of clothes, or just plain vegan. So some of the ones who consume meat also are nice people, I guess.
If you enjoyed watching that video, please like, comment, subscribe and share the video. I really appreciate you showing your love in that way. If you also want to support the channel financially, that's possible via Patreon, but really no pressure. See you next time!